Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so I think that we can get started with that session. So I'm really sorry for those who did not manage to find a seat. So, but at the same time, it's also mean that so the session is of interest to all of you. So that is a very good sign. So thank you for joining us for this session on international cooperation, emerging new jobs and new skills for the future market. My name is Céline Davesne. I am the Associate Dean for Programs and International Affairs at NEOMA Business School in France. And so I would like to thank the French-Russian University for providing the ground for this session. Also IBS, so the business school at RANEPA, and especially Alexei, who did a lot for the success of this session. And also everything was prepared in cooperation with the French-Russian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So thank you to Grégoire Chénaud and Lydia Sutermina. So don't laugh at me. And of course, we could not have that session without our experts. So thank you to our guest speakers who will be providing input for that session. So to provide you with a bit of information and context. So the French-Russian University has been developing as a network a set of double degree programs in business and management education, sciences and biology, based on existing programs in the portfolio. Yet, in an ever-evolving and changing world, which often is referred to as going through the fourth industrial revolution, higher education has to reinvent and align its learning objectives and curricula to the job market. Yet, as we are moving through a world undergoing deep transformations, this has become highly challenging. The roundtable discussion will be the opportunity to listen to the business community so as to try to identify the major impacts of this transformation on organizations, and most importantly, how it impacts required skills and competencies. Then we have identified 3 questions, and our guest speakers have decided to answer or debate on one more particularly. So we will be going through a set of ways that digital and environmental issues impact organization and transform the jobs needed in organizations. What are the skills that would be question 2? What are the key skills required? Are they digital, innovative, intercultural, what we call the soft skills versus the more technical and hard skills? And finally, third question, what are the specific features of the Russian market? What are the main expectations in terms of education? So as you can see, plenty of really interesting issues to discuss, and so I suggest that we start the roundtable with our first guest speaker. So I will give now the floor to Mathieu Gomard, who is the CEO of Yves Rocher Russia and Eastern countries.
Yes.
Good.
Good afternoon. Dobry din, всем. So I have been working in Russia for the last 6 years as a general manager for Yves Rocher, and I apologize, I don't speak good enough Russian to be expressing myself in Russian, so my apologies, I regret it deeply. First of all, I would like to introduce you the Groupe Rocher, which is, so you know the brand Yves Rocher in Russia. The brand Yves Rocher in Russia has been one of the first 3 brands, Western brands, to come into the country in 1991. And it has developed over the last almost 30 years quite successfully. We have 455 stores in the country. We have quite important internet site. And I would say in terms of awareness, we are among the top cosmetic brands. Now, we belong to a group which is Groupe Rocher, which has started in 1959 with the brand Yves Rocher, with Mr. Yves Rocher. And the group has expanded. It's now 10 brands around in 3 markets. First of all, cosmetic. Second, home care. And third market is textile, with a brand named Petit Bateau, which is pretty well known in France. What is important is 2.5 billion sales, to give you an idea, and it's now very international, with 25% activity in the US, 60% in Europe plus France, and the rest in Asia and the rest of the world. 18,000 people are working for the group. And this is probably what I want to say. About digital, we call that digital and environmental issues. I would say for us, we take them I would say it's more opportunities than issues. First of all, I would like to talk about digital. Digital, of course, is commerce, is e-commerce, but it is not only e-commerce. With regard to e-commerce, it started, anywhere in the world, 15 years ago. In Russia, we have an internet site since 2006. But as I say, digital is more than e-commerce. Digital is more really across everything we do. And I would like to underline probably 2 things that are really important now, and where digital dimension is very important. The first one is where we where you can where you can identify products in store. There are more and more consumers that are requiring the composition of products, and there is a famous application in France which is called Yuka. There is another one in Russia which is less famous, which is Ciboulette, where you can scan products and you can disclose the composition of products. This is quite important in the world where safety of products and composition of products becomes more and more important. So it's really, and it puts a lot of pressure on manufacturers in the way they design their products, especially in cosmetics. When you have a no-nasty strand, you will see no paraben, no palm oil in many products. Most of the brands are doing it now, but brands are aiming at 100%, close to 100% natural products and no nasties in their formula. And with this application, digital applications, this is the time of full transparency of products. So this is one dimension. Second dimension, to illustrate what I want to say about digital, is when you have 450 stores, when you have large chains, you want to know if your merchandising is well executed. And you want to know it quite often. And there are tools now. I don't want to advertise for the provider, but there are the tools named Ubiq, which is very used by many retailers. And with Ubiq, instead of taking pictures, sending it to WhatsApp, or taking pictures, sending it by email, you can gather and analyze very quickly the conformity of your merchandising across stores, across as many stores as you want. So this is critical for us, as an example, because we want to present the brand in each store the same way to consumers. And the way to do it and to control it, to say it is easy. To do it sounds easy. It is not easy. So we need to put some control on it. And this kind of tool, digital tool, is quite interesting, quite important. So you asked me to talk about, what this digital trend generates in terms of job for us. I would say that, of course, our e-commerce department has grown over the last years, but I would say I'd like to emphasize one function, which is data analysis, data scientists. This is more and more critical. We doubled the size of the department at Yves Rocher Russia over the last 3 years. People who can really analyze data are really instrumental to the success of the companies. What kind of data you want to analyze? Of course, you want to analyze in all details, in all aspects, the success of an operation, of a campaign. You want to analyze why it failed, because sometimes it fails. You want to analyze the type of product that sells and at what price. And you want to analyze, the frequency of purchase on some type of clientele. So there are many things, and data scientists are probably one of the most critical resources now. They bring you information that you need to make decisions. So I just have 1 minute. I will talk about environment the second time, okay? The second time I have the right to speak. To finish, I would say data comes with digital, of course, as a support to digital. And I should talk also about IT. Of course, you need strong IT developers to be able to adapt your system very quickly. I mean, speed is the name of the game, I would say. The more you get information, the quicker you get it, the better you make your decisions, and the better you can adapt to circumstances. So I would say data, IT, and digital, specific digital resources are today absolutely critical for us. It doesn't mean that other resources are not, but I would like to emphasize on this one because we're talking about digital. So, environment, next time. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for that insight. So now I'm leaving the ground to Rudolf Razek, who is the HR director of Danone. Thank you.
Добрый день всем. Я постараюсь говорить на русском. Это не мой родной, поэтому...
Good afternoon. I will try to speak Russian. It's not my native language, so please forgive my mistakes. I have worked in Russia since 2011, since the merger of Danone with Unimilk. So Danone, who appeared in Russia in 1992, became the leader of the market. We have not only dairy products, but also baby food and medical food. And speaking of our program, our company as a whole, we have more than 100,000 people, well over 125 million euro. We work in several dozen countries, and if you want to know more, look us up in the internet. I will start with the second question that was asked about all how the environment, global warming, and things like that affect our organization. Danone is a leader company. It's not because we are very good, but because we need to be. We are selling dairy products. We cooperate very closely with agriculture. 12 years ago, we started doing this. We asked ourselves a very simple question: how can we calculate the footprint of our production? It was nobody knew how to do this. It was something new out of outer space, and so we needed almost 7 years for people to understand this. It has become our new culture. We need now new competence, and now when we produce products and when we transport them, when we sell them, we take things into account. We take into account environmental effects, as regards competence building, this is a very lengthy process, and we are now designing new products which are eco-designed, because when we create our products, we always think about the environmental impact. About, for example, those straws, to use less plastic or to make them reusable. So this is a new mindset, and there are we need new people who can do this. And as regards the environmental future, in order to reduce our environmental footprint, this plastic, for example, we should understand that plastic is recycled. It comes back into production. And so this is what I could say about environment. And now let me tell you how digitalization affects our work. What is digitalization? From the point of view of people and their work, their jobs, it changes everything. It is a very democratic change because it is going to affect everybody, myself and the youngest intern. Because in the past we spent a lot of time on gathering information, and now we can do it in one click. So the meaning of the position is changing. Now it is more about data analysis, as Mathieu has said. So it is a new challenge to all us, for older people, for young people. We all need those competences. We all need to understand digital. And this is from the point of view of an individual, of myself. But if you look at the whole organization, what does it is even more interesting. How much does the digital bring to our organization? When you have data, they are accessible to everybody and everywhere. Many companies have been building up their processes for years, and now we need to change those processes, because in the past we collected data in one way, and now with digitalization, all the information is accessible to everybody, and it has a double impact. First, you can take decisions at lower echelons of the organizations. You don't need to go to the director general in order to take a decision. You can do it at a lower level, and this, of course, a challenge to young people, because it is them who now have to take decisions. This is something about which Mathieu have spoken. And another, from the point of view of more traditional organizations like logistics, finance, and HR, well, data belongs to everybody. And now we as organizations will have to reconsider our organization, because all this traditional organization is not so necessary, and we will need to learn. We will need to cooperation between or among departments, because data are changing our life. And it is very interesting to look, if we look forward, we say that all positions, all professions will change. And so what do we need to develop? Growth mindset, growth agility. 10 years ago, digitalization meant being able to work with a computer. Now we speak about data science, and we don't know what will happen in 10 years. So we all need to learn very quickly. And it was our mindset. Can companies must create conditions which are good for people to develop in them. And second, the more data we have, the more we can say that that every company will have the same data. What is going to be the difference between those between the companies? The difference would be in the way the companies process their data. Intuition has never been abolished, and so we will be able to work differently. Thank you.
Is that okay for translation? Okay. So now I'm leaving the ground to Christophe Miti from CMS, who is a partner there.
Sorry, in English. So I'm a partner working for CMS in Moscow for 15 years now. And so as you may know, your lawyers are usually considered to be very traditionalist and reluctant to any technical change. However, what we have seen over the last few years is development of the use of technical software, LegTech as we call them, or LexTech, and as well as use of artificial intelligence. So I will not go through, because we are time limited, through the advantages for us as a lawyer and for our client as well, which we gain from using and recurring to artificial intelligence. But what is for sure is that this will change the way we are already providing, and we will be providing legal services in the future. And with this goes a shift in the skills which are required actually from young lawyers, and even from us older lawyers, but especially from the young lawyers. And this shift actually is twofold. We can say that we need to, or they need to strengthen some existing soft skills, And there is a need in developing new soft skills. Not to forget them, despite the fact that my list is not exhaustive, I will go and list a few skills which us as a lawyer must normally have, but which will have to be strengthened among the new generation of lawyers. These are, of course, the adaptability to change and flexibility. It's obvious things are moving very fast. Communication skills, because now we are in hand a lot of different media to communicate with our client. It can be, of course, traditional one, email, phone, but it goes as well through LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. So we need to develop our communication skills. Negotiation skills. Commercial, we need to understand what's going on in our client sector, and this is very important. We need to see outside of our box, if I can say so. Management skills and project management skills, and I will talk about it later on. Interpersonal and interdisciplinary skills. Once again, a client now doesn't want, for example, just a commercial advice. The client wants to have as well information about tax implication, for example, employment implications. So we need to understand and to have a broad picture of what is required from the client. Internationalization and cross-border practice, and I will mention it in a few minutes. Business skills, or what we call business acumen. It means that lawyers now, or the young generation, will be required, or is required, not only to know its field of law, be commercial, M&A, whatever, banking, but as well to have knowledge about financial, about marketing, about public relations, about all the various aspects which can be concerned by the legal advice this lawyer is going to give. So these skills normally are already present, and any lawyer should have them. But with the use of artificial information, these skills will have to be strengthened. Then there are new skills, which, for example, I don't have all of them, and I will, especially the first one, but I'm old generation already, but for the new generation, they will be required. First of all, these are the digital and technological knowledge and know-how. Lawyers will not be, of course, asked to know and to be IT, for sure, but what will be important for them is to understand how this software, technical or LegTech, how these artificial intelligence work, what is the benefits we can gain from them in using them. So that will be very important. Leadership will be very important. Why? Because the new generation of lawyers will have to know how to work in virtual team, meaning that, for example, we have more than 70 offices in the world in 43 countries. So, which means that tomorrow I can need to work with people all around the world. So, of course, we don't meet physically speaking. We go through a computer or through a video. So it's another way of working, and it's another way of managing people, and as a leader, it's another way of leading the team, because you need to take into account intercultural differences, language differences as well, time differences, basic things. So that will be some skills that will be required for the new generation. Creative thinking and experimentation. Simple example, automated car. Tomorrow, and there are already some examples, car crash. Who will be responsible? The manufacturer, the seller, the person behind the wheel, despite the fact that the person was not driving effectively. So a lot of new issues will appear due to the development and the technological development, and the lawyer will have to be quick thinker and to be innovative and creative. We were talking about analytical thinking. Of course, we are already, as a lawyer, analyzing database, but the volume of information which the young generation will have to deal with will be 10 times more important. So analytical thinking will be really a key features. So just to sum up, the new lawyer, what we call the 2.0 or T-shaped lawyer, will need to have the knowledge, the legal knowledge, but on the top of that, we'll need to have a lot of soft skills. And I will just finish here, that raised an issue because law school and university and law university, they are knowledge driven and not business thinking driven. So they will need to adapt their program as well as developing soft skills. And us as a practitioner, and especially I'm a senior learning and development specialist in CMS, we have right now, and we did it already, but we are rethinking our training program for our current employees and current colleagues, because, and I will just very quickly finish, the problem is that artificial intelligence is taking away work done usually by juniors and paralegal. How will they be trained? How will they gain this knowledge? So this is why we are setting through various CMS Academy and various programs, sharing knowledge, experience between more senior and junior senior, where us as a senior, we share the knowledge, the practice with the junior, just to help them to be trained and become the 2.0 lawyer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those very interesting insights. So I'm now leaving the ground to Albert Grigorian, General Representative NG in Russia. Thank you.
Спасибо.
Thank you so much. I will speak in Russian, if you don't mind. In essence, I'd like to say a few words about my company, first of all. And then, digitalization is such a topic that I can speak hours about that. I will render several examples, and I hope that I will not take too much time. My company is not discovering Russia, because we are here for quite a while. End of the 19th century, our colleagues already visited Russia, doing business there. Even since the 19th century, we had buildings which were built by our colleagues, the Belgians, our ancestors in St. Petersburg. They also built a power plant number 2 or number 3, if I'm not mistaken. Gazprom operated that power plant until recently, so it means that NG is not a newcomer for Russia. We are buying lots of gas starting from the Soviet Union period of time. We are a quite big partner for Russia and for Gazprom there. We account for, at least in terms of what we pay, we account for 1/7 or 1/6 of the turnover between Russia and France. A lot of money. We understand the importance of the Russian market and the importance of partnership with Russia. For those who knows, or those who do not know, we were part of Nord Stream 1, and we are a financial partner for Nord Stream 2. So it means that Russia for us remains a strategic partner, and we are here to stay. Back to the digitalization question. That's a very interesting topic. If I still have 5 minutes, okay. 5 minutes is more than enough. I would say that digitalization penetrated into our life the way that we do not feel that it is somewhere there, because actually it is everywhere. It is omnipresent. When I worked in France before I came to Russia back in 2012. I was dealing with the Russian contracts on the gas supply. And in my capacity, I had to visit some of our gas supplies stations every quarter. We had to meet our clients in the city of Baumgarten. This is a city on the crossroads of Austria and Hungary, and these negotiations took place every quarter. The negotiations were held by Gazprom and other companies who acted as consumers, and therefore, every time I was going there, we were exchanging certain ideas, checking whether we are on the same page, and it was done usually on paper. We exchanged hard copies. It was back in 2005. Then all of a sudden we decided that we don't have to meet in presence physically because it can be done virtually. You can send a fax. Those of you who are young enough, probably you do not know what fax is. So actually, you just dial several digits, you send a piece of paper. It was a very cumbersome process, but now you may use email, you may use PDF, and other means and channels. You may send all types of information very quickly. You may collect lots of people, and people don't even have to go somewhere, don't have to attend those quarterly negotiations just in order to get a bill of exchange. So at that time, we were sending that by post. Now we're doing that virtually by mail. So digitalization improved the living standards and the quality of life in general, and it improved the quality of our work, very specifically. Digitalization gave us an opportunity very quickly, very promptly, and very efficiently to work. Digitalization is an integral part of our life. We cannot do without that. Another thing, which is also quite important, the one which I would like to stress, is about the archives. Can you imagine how many tons of documents which we had to store and which we still have to store in terms of archives? Right now, this has been done digitally. And sadly, this helps to create new jobs. IT specialists. IT specialists have to think about how to provide security, how to store that most efficiently. But globally, it is very helpful. This helps us. We made progress. We are moving in that direction. And today, we even do some video conferences by WhatsApp, or through Skype. So whether you want it or not, but digitalization is an integral part of our life. At the same time, meanwhile, I would say that there is a flip side, some fly in the ointment. Before, we were meeting physically. We were exchanging certain opinions physically. It was about a physical contact. And we spent some time together, going to restaurants and working together at the same time. And it helped us to create the relations of a total different quality. At the moment, we have only virtual relations, and we cannot avoid that. But at the same time, this actually creates a distance between us. We act as robots. You send some information through email, and that's it. You no longer do some small talk. So this is my experience. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm now leaving the ground to Tatiana Silova, who is head of Talent Business Partners Group from Deloitte.
Добрый день.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for your interest shown to this very relevant topic. We're speaking about new skills. My name is Shilova Tatiana. I'm head of Talent Development Business Group from Deloitte. We are providing consultancy. And this year we celebrate 175th anniversary since Deloitte was set up. So this is an anniversary year for us. And Jubilee. For 10 years, our company is publishing a global report concerning trends in the area of HR management or personnel management. And today, I would like to, in a nutshell, tell you about automation, which embraces all of us. I'd like to share some data that you may find in our report. As we have spoke today, for many years, many research and studies say that due to automation, many professions may die out. They will no longer be in demand. 60% of the respondents who took part in our poll, and we did that poll among more than 10,000 people level of managers, top managers, heads of departments from 119 countries. They reiterated that the automation and digitalization are clearly very important. This market grows by 20% every year. So that means that new software emerges, which allows to automate the routine, mundane tasks, the tasks which can be replaced with machines. 40% of respondents confirmed that they are using automation, but every person uses automation differently. 60% use automation in order to get rid of some routine, some mundane tasks. 50% try to improve their productivity of the existing practices, the ones which do exist in the company, and only 36 people do a strategic approach, meaning that they rethink the objectives which I put forward, they rethink the job they have to do, and only after that they proceed with the automation. Sadly, once we may replace the manual work with machines, we need new skills, new knowledge, new excellence. Once we have some simple operations being replaced by machines, then it becomes more humane, so to say. And we realize that we have to pay more attention to the clients, we have to communicate more, to show more empathy, to interpret the data which we have in the company. All the companies have lots of data, but not all the time we analyze these data and make conclusions so that these data could be used appropriately. And certainly we would like to simplify the processes for ourselves, but at the same time we all are eager to cut costs, to save up on budgets. Therefore, we are eager to create new roles. This our survey focuses on super jobs or super positions, which we'll see in future. At the moment, the most demanded positions are of a hybrid nature, when we see a combination of technical skills and soft skills. But once we speak about super jobs, it would be next step in the evolution of the roles, when from different positions, from different capacities, you take different duties, different functions, different jobs. You actually pinpoint that with the technologies, increasing the scope and improving the processes. And in addition, you complement that with more sophisticated soft skills. At the moment, it sounds as a wishful thinking. It is very far-fetched, but in essence, this is almost a reality. In 2 or 3 years, it will come to Russia. This would be something which we'll have to think about. But if we get back to the skills which we need, if we speak about the important skills necessary to survive amid Industry 4.0, we have to focus on soft skills such as decision-making skills, language and communication skills, decision-making skills, and the adaptability skill. But if we want to be a success, not only to survive, but really to be in our prime, we would need those digital skills such as computer skills, IT skills, skills of working with robots, skills of working with new tools, and certainly we have to develop critical thinking. This is what the report speaks about. Personally, I would like to add that, in my opinion, what is very important is that every employee, regardless of his or her position, whether this is an intern or a top manager, they have to keep motivation to get trained, to continue their education and continue their development. Without that, nothing will happen. Without that, we will not progress. We will stand still, or on the contrary, will recoil. And only 1 minute left. That's why I would like to add a few words about leadership skills. leadership skills have to be transformed with the time. It's an open secret. Many companies regarded the leaders as top managers, but now we do believe that the leadership skills have to be typical of the heads of departments, but now the leadership skills have to be typical of other employees as well. So the leadership has to be developed from infancy. We have to focus on the young leaders. Let us look at how they are transformed. Before we looked at the individual input of the leader, but now the focus is shifted onto the leaders as team members, how they may strengthen the team-driven results. We focus on the innovative decisions and solutions. We focus on the motivation of the teams which work a mixed way.
Наверное, в основном команды смешанные, то есть не только штатные сотрудники.
Luckily, we now have mixed teams, not only in-house but also out-house specialists and those whom we involve using cloud platforms. And it is very important for the leaders to be able to act in non-standard and rapidly changing conditions. I see that my time is almost up, so thank you very much. And I give the floor back to our moderator.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. I know how challenging it is to try to sum up such an extensive
Absolutely.
survey in a few minutes only. And I would like to take just a few seconds to welcome Sergei Sinelnikov-Murilev, who is a very important person to us. Too many things to... Yes, okay. So, Sergei, would you please stand up? So just for to welcome and greet our guest speakers, and so crowded session. So Sergei is the rector of the Russian Foreign Trade Academy, vice rector of RANEPA, but also president of the French-Russian University. So thank you, Sergei, for joining us.
Уважаемые друзья, коллеги,
Friends, colleagues, unfortunately, I couldn't have come at the very beginning, and I must go to another panel in a minute. But what I have heard here is very interesting for me as a rector, because for me, all things that are happening here are of utmost importance. We, people who work in the education, must understand the demand in business, because we are not work just to enjoy ourselves. We work for specific employees, and it would be great if the results of this session would be were summed up and distributed among representatives of the Russian-French University. I would be grateful if the organizers of the session would do a summing up, a short gist, give the gist of this session to others.
Thank you, Sergei. So for sure, we will be going on with the discussion and sharing the results. So thank you. So now we're moving forward with our session, and I'm leaving the ground to Irina Alexova, who is Vice General Director for Key Customer Services from Coleman Services, UK.
Добрый день. Я представляю компанию Coleman Services. Это одна.
Good afternoon. I represent the Coleman Services UK company. It is one of the first companies that are providing HR or recruiting services to come into the Russian market. And so I think I'm expected to tell you what competences and skills employers need now from candidates. So a few words about the Russian market, because the Russian market is very interesting. It combines a shortage of human resources with a plethora of candidates for certain positions. For example, we needed someone to occupy a financial position, and within 4 hours we received 2,000 CVs, and the problem was to sift through them. On the other hand, a client or a customer asked us to give the head of a workshop who would know 2 languages and who would be certified in Toyota production. And it was rather difficult to find him. So it characterizes our market. I would like to provide a section of the market. In 1994, 1995, I started working for Coleman Services, and 85% of the personnel were expats, 15% were Russians, and at that time, people who knew English made fantastic careers just because they understood what was said to them, because it was really difficult to explain in English to an accountant with a 10-year length of service. The difference between the Russian accounting system and the international accounting system was totally impossible. And one of the experts told me that he had understood everything a long time before. He said they didn't understand anything. And I started working in the Association of European Business, and I worked there for 2 years, and I was in charge of the HR department, and the KPMG and PwC came to us and said we want to have 20 to 25% of expats in Russia, and the rest should be Russians. We need to train the Russians. And now, 2014, sanctions begin, and there was a slowdown of economic growth, etc. Companies need to take measures to cut the expenses regarding wages, and about 14 to 15,000 expats left Russia. They left empty their rather high-ranking positions, and they were replaced by Russian personnel. What does it show? It shows that in reality in Russia there is a new generation of managers who speak English or some other foreign languages, and so people who speak with a dictionary are no longer needed, and these are people who know international standards and can work according to them, and these are people who have good soft skills and good hard skills. And in this connection, I would like to thank very much our higher education system, and especially of foreign and in particular foreign educational institutions who helped to train these people. What is expected from prospective employees? A good combination of soft skills and hard skills. Hard skills is what you do, and soft skills is how you do it. And sometimes how you do it is more important than what you do. Also, the ability to retrain an illiterate person nowadays is not someone who cannot speak or write, but a person who cannot learn something new, who cannot be retrained, who cannot meet the new requirements appearing in his company. And just 1 minute. When I was 5 or 6 years old, I was brought to a skating rink in a figure skating school, and the coach said to me, "Now I'm going to teach you the most important skill in your life. I will teach you how to fall correctly. As you are going to skate, you will necessarily fall, and so you need to fall without damaging yourself." And this is something that higher education must teach, because this is the only way to achieve results and not consequences in sports, life, and business. That's all.
So now I'm leaving the ground to Artyom Siminoff, who is the leading data scientist in Europe working at BCG.
Thank you very much. I will speak Russian. I would like to thank the organizers for this interesting discussion, and I hope that I will be able to contribute something really useful. I am the head of projects and the main expert on data analysis of the BCG Moscow office. Our company is mostly active in the field of business and management consulting, but a few years ago a specialized department was set up, which is called BCG-Com. It is an international team, about 600 persons, all over the world, and we help the great BCG to introduce digitalization, and it is which is often an important part of various projects to introduce both informational and technological skills. And I would like to share my experience of doing a large digital projects which BCG puts into practice in Russia and all over the world, and to indicate the key skills and key problems and respectively certain ways for students to do these projects most effectively. In BCG we have a saying: in every big transformation, in every change, even if we introduce advanced analytics, and we often do it for companies of the real sector, of industry, of financial institutions, etc. Whenever we go, if we are trying to transform the company, 70% of our effort is taken up by change management, and only 30% is algorithms, mathematics, IT, etc. I am a mathematician. I have studied applied mathematician, and my colleagues in BCG-GAM are also mathematics experts. And and in Russia we still have a very good the mathematics teaching in the universities, and we know mathematics well. But what we see in real life, in real projects, is like this. We have done a model for a steel company, and this model will help the company to earn more money and respectively to improve its competitive advantage. And this is not so difficult to make such a model. You need a team, you need math skills, and all this can be found on the market. But the most difficult thing is to persuade the company to do this. So if the company is advanced, it is difficult to persuade it to introduce this new model. Doing this is really difficult, and we see that there are people who have a lot of experience and who have never heard about data science or machine learning. And they say, I have been working on the market for 20 years, I don't know any such things, and you want me to make a decision doing it in a black box. Why should I believe your black box? And this process, this change management is very important. I would like to tell you that for students and future generations, it is important to build a bridge between hard skills and soft skills, communication skills, change management, and etc. So if you don't do if you don't build such a bridge, we won't be a successful company, because what is the most constant about our times is changing. The economic situation changes, the economic landscape is changing, the cultural landscape is changing. So if we cannot build a bridge between hard skills and soft skills, we don't do anything. And so, as regards the development of educational programs and curricula, we have tried to build a few bridges between technical skills, hard skills, and soft skills, and both for technological experts, important how to change business processes, and for managers it is important to understand which technologies are used and how to live in this changing technological landscape. And within the framework of these courses, I give a course for master's managers and bachelor's managers. And for me, the most interesting thing was how to explain to people who have no technological education the importance of these new models and new means which appear in to resolve various situations. And we use real business cases in which they have to build a model or to explain to a manager of what this model consists of and to resolve the business problem. So we take a specific task from real life and then we have to explain what should we do, and after that we have to marry technology and business, and this is very important. In my view, this is one of the most important technical skills. We have made a similar exercise for bachelors, and it was even more difficult. You know, in mathematics there are some fundamental things like fundamental analysis, a theory of probabilities and mathematical statistics, and many managers do not really learn them well. And 10 years after his graduation, he cannot solve a problem on a theory of probabilities. But we are trying to connect all those things with business problems and business execution, and I think this is the most promising avenue and we should move in that direction. And summing up, by way of summing up my dialogue, I would say that in the Soviet Union we spoke about physics and lyrics, that is, people who know technology and people who know all the human things. We should teach these people to understand each other, otherwise we will have a Babel where no one will understand anything, and that won't be good.
Okay, so thank you, Artwem, for this very, very good transition and bridge. You're talking about bridging technical and sciences to management and education. And I'm now pleased to introduce Virginie de Barnier, who is the Dean of the Graduate School of Management of Aix-Marseille.
Okay, thank you. I will do it in English. Thank you for this session and those very interesting feedback. And I'll try to be quick because I think we don't have a lot of time. And maybe it's a good way to summarize what has been said. So I'm Virginie de Barnier, I'm the Dean of the Business School of Aix-Marseille University. And I'm also doing a lot of EQUIS accreditations. So I've been able to visit a lot of universities worldwide. And I can tell you, so one good news is that the way we teach is really evolving, and we don't teach the way we used to teach. And every professor in every business school and in every university is doing their job differently because of digitalization. So there is a shift, and the world is moving and in the right direction. And if I want to summarize what I can see in every business school, the first thing that I see is that the students are different. They have different behaviors. They check what you say online the day you say it, the minute you say it. They check and they tell you, oh, no, professor, you're wrong. It's not 1955, it's 1956. Okay, good, thank you. So we have different students, and their expectation is not to a lot of hard skills, because they think, and they're right, that the hard skill can be learned by themselves online. And so what their expectation, what they want to learn is mostly soft skills. And it has been very well explained, the way you need both to be very competitive in the world. So we have different students, and we have so different way of teaching. We introduce MOOCs, online courses that enable students from everywhere to join and to have a degree, and also technology has enabled us to have forums, to have international students speak everywhere. I can, for instance, give you the example of Open University in London, which is a university only online, and they are doing a great job, and it also enables students that do not have the capacity to be here And for instance, people who are disabled or army people who are in submarines or people who have special things to do, so, or for instance, like sport, highly skilled sport people who cannot join a class every Monday at 9. And so they have these specific target, and they are doing a great job only online. So the world of higher education is really moving. Different pedagogy, different students, also different product portfolio. We need to include digitalization in all our classes. And I can tell you it's done, and I've seen it everywhere all over the world. And finally, also, I want to stress the fact that it has also a strong impact on communication. Communication is different through digitalization because, of course, what we see is stronger competition because more international competition. So a few years ago, our market were regional market. Now the market of higher education is worldwide. And that's why we have this meeting here. And that's why, for instance, we created this French-Russian university, because the French-Russian university's objective is to really impulse more French-Russian collaboration in education. So more competition, so a very different communication, a communication that uses social networks a lot, Instagram, and I hope you are all tweeting here what's going on, and I know that the Millennium in the back, they will do it. Instagram, Facebook, even Facebook now is old. And even some people tell you, we don't use Facebook anymore. No, this is an old tool. So it has changed a lot, the way we teach, the way we construct our product portfolio and our program, and the way we communicate. And this is a good thing. But I want to finish with saying, and maybe conclude, that digitalization is very big and okay, and we have to adapt to this, and this is also an opportunity, as you said. But I also agree with this gentleman speaking of the restaurant, the day that we were speaking in the restaurant, because there's always human relations. And the best proof is you. You're here. You could follow this session online, but you decided to be here. So this means that the two tools are complementary. We need digital, but we also need sometimes and many times to meet people and to be here.
Sure. So this includes... Okay, so thank you very much, Virginie. So now we do have time to go back to some of the main aspects that you've been developing and raising further questions. So as I was introducing the session, I mentioned so that this discussion is taking place in the context of the French-Russian University. And so what we've been doing for the moment, so for the four past years, so it has been a successful story, and we have somehow merged and created double degrees between existing portfolios in France and in Russia. Okay? So now, as I listen to you, and I've made a terrific long list of skills that we will need to provide to our students and your future talents in companies. And I feel that for sure, Virginie, I fully agree. So things are changing. And of course, so business schools and universities are taking all this seriously. But there's still a long way to go. And listening to you, we can start identifying which ways we should probably follow. So my question to the panel would be, in that context of the French-Russian University, what programs do you think we should work together, so Russian universities and French universities, work on, so that we provide the ideal, let's dream about it, sky is the limit. So what kind of programs should we work on? Okay, so what would be the kind of graduates or undergraduates that you would say, okay, I'm going to recruit them at the French-Russian university because this is the best place to get the right profiles for the market. Albert?
Смотрите,
Look, before saying what interesting program we can choose so that the French-Russian university partnership could be of some help, let me render a specific case-specific example from my experience. When we hire young specialists from Russia or from France, what I noted in those 7 years, I think it may serve as a foundation for our further discussion. Probably colleagues have already noticed that. So I have noticed that these young guys who come from Paris, in the context of VE or VA, an excellent program, they are almost ready to start working for the company. So they can boast the readiness to work. Why I'm speaking about that? Because I was born in the former Soviet Union, and I went to study in France. And all my adult life, more than half of my adult life, I spent in France, and I'm working with Gas of France, NG, and other energy companies. And after I graduated and when I started working, it turned out that what is required from an intern, I also started as an intern, so what is required is about practical skills. This is what the Soviet school, and after the independence, every single former Soviet republic could not render that, could not deliver that. I noted that talking to my Russian guys, the ones who I invited to do internship for a month or a month and a half, I noted that their approach to internship is totally different. Sometimes it seemed to me that they come to us just to spend time having some fun, tick the box, show that to their university, and that's it. I was very much surprised with that. I didn't want that. I wanted them to be employed, to be used full-time. So I mean employed, not used. And I noted that when guys from France come, they immediately are eager to start working. They are capable of doing the job appropriately, immediately. So what conclusion I can make out of that case? Even today, on the post-Soviet territory, the Russian universities still focus on the purely academic knowledge, purely theoretical approach, too little practice. Question was asked about hardware and software, what to do, how to do. So the question, what to do, how to address a problem, how to work. These are very important questions. And probably the Russian universities have to be thoughtful about that. They have to invite as many experts as possible. I have master classes and roundtable discussions here in GIMO, the Moscow University for Foreign Relations, and I see that the undergraduates are not ready to start working immediately. So they believe that this is too far away from them. There is another problem. Probably there are institutes and enterprises and universities in Russia which are not ready for such state-of-the-art approaches. So this is about a structural approach. We have to change something systemically. So the ratio of theory to practice. And if I may, 1 minute more, I will not abuse your attention any longer. There is another feature, there is another difference. Russia doesn't welcome initiative because showing an initiative is a very dangerous thing. There is even a saying that initiative is punishable. I frankly tell my young experts, this is for the 7th or even 8th time that I admit the graduates of EO students, and I tell them you have to be courageous, you have to be able to spearhead, to show some leadership, to show initiative. Russia certainly lacks this skill. This is what I've noted. Thank you so much, and apologize for being too long.
So thank you for this input. So Rudolf, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to build on what Albert was saying, and I'll try to be very brief, but I think that I'm not an expert, so I do not think that I will bring something that I will create a new French-Russian university. But I think that I also spent a couple of years in France, and I think that this kind of exchanges is quite important. And what I see in the younger generation, all the studies are telling about, it's about purpose. People work for purpose much more than for money, much more than for some other kind of ambitions. And the purpose is something that is very different in each of us. And I think that each time you go to another country, and France for it, if you look today, it's quite an amazing country. The purpose is the word that is everywhere. You can see it in the strikes that there are, whatever. So I think that this is something that is really important in these exchanges, because you understand that there is another reality, there are another points of view, and like this you really understand your purpose. Anyway, that's the first. The second, I think that both countries, they have something very in common. It's the great mathematicians. And both, I would say, countries are based on kind of rationality. And I think that this very much like the critical thinking, because data is everywhere, there will be a lot of data, there will be contradictory data, and how to find the right way and take the decision. I think this really France and Russia, or Russia and France, they can bring to the whole world, my soul. And last one, I think, and we see it, and I don't know, we try to somehow embrace it, it's about the accountability, personal accountability, the bottom up. You know, all the young generation, they want to go to startup, they will talk squads and all the stuff of new organization. What is it about? I have the freedom to act. I am the boss of myself. I do not want a hierarchy, okay? And I think this is also something that France and Russia and the schools, because the systems are different, and by looking and observing the difference, you learn even more. So for me, this is something that help us also, because we see we are having people who want this freedom, bottom up, I can do, but at the same time, there is a kind of discipline also needed in an organization. So these are the topics I would also like to address.
So thank you for this input. So I can only but fully agree with you. So the sense making is something that students keep on repeating. So I don't know whether very short history about what happened at Polytechnique. X in France. They were welcoming the French company Total. And at one point, one of the students just woke up and said, no way we're going to work for Total because you're destroying the planet. And so you're not, you don't have that kind of awareness that we're looking for. So there's no way we're going to go and give our energy and talents to such a company as yours. So that is really interesting, and that is echoing completely what you're saying. So Mathieu, you wanted to add on also?
Yes, getting there. Because about sense, you ask what would be the program you would develop. I would suggest something called Reconnect to Nature for frugal development and innovation. And I'm talking about this because, you know, all our companies, including mine, we have, you know, our CSR policies, we have our foundations, etc., etc. My boss, Mr. Rocher, thinks it's not enough anymore. This is why last December, he decided to be the first international group in France to be a mission-driven company. Meaning that doing business is not only about achieving economic goals, but recognizing that it's achieving social goals and environmental goals. And I would like to read to you the statement of this, his statement, which I like very much, and this is the verbatim. In an increasingly urbanized and digitized world, it is essential to return to fundamentals and give back to nature the place it deserves in our society. And it is essential that brands be part of this commitment. Indeed, nature has a positive impact on the well-being of people and therefore on their desire to act for the planet. Our raison d'être and this ambition to reconnect people to nature must therefore be at the heart of our all actions. I am convinced that doing this will help build a better world. We are not aiming at being the better company in the world, we are aiming at being the best company for the world. I would do something with this because, you know, I think that we will look for people who are really capable of doing more with less. It will come soon. You know, you see decrease of consumption in some countries, in developed countries. It's going to be more quality, more durable goods, and less volumes, more and more. And I think we'll need these skills to develop this: frugal development, frugal innovation, more respect for biodiversity. Okay, it will become a critical skills. And I would add that this trend, I think, is irreversible. Look at what happened in the last 6 months in Brazil, Russia, Australia. Forests are burning. The world is burning. And so it will be more and more critical. I think it will also change the way we look at company performance. I mean, management control will really shift from economic to social and environmental measurement. So I would develop, and I would be eager to participate if you start to do so. I would develop something like this. Yeah.
Super. Okay, so we all noted that so that would be much welcome, of course. So we do need the credibility of companies to help us promote, and students are more than ready for this. Yeah. And I would even say that they are in the starting blocks, expecting this kind of shifts and changes. So, you know, Deloitte, Danone, Yves Rocher, these are the kind of big name companies, L'Oréal, luxury brands and so on, that our students are really expecting to change and be leading in that capacity. So, okay, so we will be back to you for sure.
Thank you.
And Christophe, you wanted to...
Yeah, and Albert, if you allow me, I slightly disagree with you, and we have many Russian students here, so about the readiness, about training or things like that. First of all, when you mentioned the VIE and VIA, don't forget that these are students who are already 23, 24, and they are at the end of their cursus most of the time. So meaning that they have already the hard skills already, and they may have been taught some soft skills. What I like in Russia, and I think France should take example on this, and I'm quite concerned because my son is in the second year at the university, is that already at the second year at the university, they are asked to find training for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, but not in France. Maybe in business schools, okay, but if I speak about the field I know, law schools and university, yeah, maybe in 4 years, 4th years or 5th year, sorry, you will be asked to find a 3 months, 5 months training. Here they do it at the early stage. And because I have my colleague here who is in charge of this, when we when we invite young students, Russian students, as a trainee in our law firm, we don't expect them to be knowledgeable, to be fully ready. What we want is, and what we see, and we are quite tough because they go, despite the fact that they have 2 years of knowledge, they pass exams, and we have quite tough recruitment process because we have a lot of requests. But it's the willingness to enter the labor market or the industry or law firms and things like that, whatever. It's their willingness, which, for example, and when I go to our office, main office in France, and we compare and things, which I don't find in French students. I found them passive. Yeah, I would say the exact opposite. They are here to tick the box. Whereas in Russia, they are here to learn, to understand, and we try to make them circulating in our different departments, and they have only 2 years of knowledge, so meaning nothing. So, not that I fully disagree with you, but I just want to say that readiness to make the best of trainings exists as well in Russia, and even among the young students. At least this is something we have noticed.
Yes, so thank you, Christophe, and I think that you're making a very important point here. So training periods, so that is something that we've been discussing at the board of directors yesterday, because that is something that we feel should be included in the programs that we are leading here in Russia. So in France, that's not an issue. So we can organize the training period. So that is something which is, let's say, even structural in the programs. But here in Russia, it seems that we have a kind of visa problem to organize this. So that is what I hear is that this is critical that we manage to have these training periods organized in Russia for our students so that they can gain early stage, and that is something that I'm capturing here, those work experience in companies. So
visa is not an issue. Visa is not an issue.
So we are happy to
as an
hear
immigration
it.
Specialist, I can tell you this. Just need to get prepared in advance.
Okay, so now I know who to talk to. Okay, really? So that's a good news. Okay, I'll be back to you as well. Tatiana?
Да, я хотела бы буквально
Yes, I just wanted to say a couple of words. Of course, I agree with my colleagues that young specialists who come here as interns to our company, and there are several internships in our company every year, and they all contribute to the society. It is very good. They come with different backgrounds, with different education, but they lack the necessary practice. If the teaching was more practice-oriented, if there were master classes, if there was some applied knowledge given, and I would like to add, of course, that it is very difficult as regard to motivate young specialists and yesterday students. Of course, if they like the project, they will do whatever they do their best. But if they don't like it, they won't work in order to learn the skills like we did. I look at my sons, elder sons who are students. If they like a project, then they will work there day, night away, 24 hours. 7 days, but if they don't like, they don't. And it is necessary to explain to students that perhaps something is boring and you don't like it, but it will help you to acquire very important skills for the future. And of course, feedback is very important. Colleagues at every level expect feedback, but they are unable of accepting it, and they often are unable of giving back it. So it would be interesting to introduce master classes on training this feedback giving and receiving as for students as part of their training.
And mentoring is important for the person receiving the juniors. This is a way to avoid this gap when they are demotivated. You need to make them understand why.
Yeah, from my point of view, I think that it's very important to make students work in cross-functional and agile teams because today usually it's the conflict about the theory and practice. Because, for example, if you study law or economics, and then when you're in the job environment, you have to face, for example, IT guys and some technicians and etc. And vice versa. For example, if you study programming and all you do is programming, but it's very important just to, while you're a student, keep contact with some intercultural, I can say, communications, because it's very often when we speak with other professions, with people with different specializations, we speak just another language. And I think that it's important to be agile and cross-cultural when you're in the university.
Sure, thank you very much. Yep, Irina?
Буквально пару
Just a couple of words. Of course, I will support the idea that internships are necessary. Yes, they are necessary in order for young people to have an adequate self-esteem. You know, a graduate of a very good university said, I am 24 years old and I'm not even a financial director. You know, to avoid such aberrations, we need practice. He needs practice, he needs internships in order to see how real work looks like. And the second, talking of business education, well, business education includes contacts and international contacts, and I believe that this is an area where higher education institutions should work together. They must have alumni clubs, which would allow graduates to communicate from different countries. If there is the Russian-French university, why not invite some students to France for an alumni meeting, or here to Russia? It would be interesting for them to look at each other. They have a common background. It would be interesting for them to look at the country, and it will be interesting to exchange their business experience. And I don't see this in our universities, frankly speaking. I would like to add just one word. In some universities, people openly say, if you go abroad for practice, you come back, you won't be hired by certain industries.
Case.
Oh, well, my nephew studies in a large university. I forgot its name, but he is in Bauman University, and he was told, if you want to work in your specialization, which is in rocket engineering, then if you want to work here you must not go abroad for a 6 months practice. So there are such universities.
So we're coming to an end, and I would like to take one or two questions in the audience. And just before I do so, I would like Nicolas Freal from Freal Consulting to just in a few minutes to talk about the territory. Russia is so big in terms of a nation, but also in terms of a territory. And then the challenge of not focusing only on Moscow, St. Petersburg, but also trying to extend to far eastern Russia. So,
good afternoon. Allow me to speak Russian to be understood by everybody. I have heard you. I agree to everything, to Russification. There is a shortage of human resources. There are some remains of Soviet world. I have worked in my industry for 20 years, and please don't forget that Russia is immense, and that there is a shortage of people. It is hard to find enough people to cover all the territory. I work with faraway provinces, not just Moscow, St. Petersburg, or Kaluga. There's also a huge territory where there are open opportunities for young foreign specialists. Please send them there. Tell them that that they will see the real Russian world. If they want to see real Russia, they must go far away. They should not keep close to the consulate or something like that. That's what I would like to add. As for development, the economy is progressing, we see that there is such a bridge built with China. There are territories like Kazakhstan. There are huge possibilities in Siberia. There are universities there. You can specialize in science, and so we should work with this space too. So be ready to take your suitcase and to go there. Be ready. But
So I would like. No, I'm really sorry. I was about to, but so I'm going to make a very, very brief conclusion then, if I may, in 1 or 2 words only. So when we had the preparatory session, I said to all the panelists how frustrated we would be at the end of the session, because of course 1 hour and a half is so short. So what is sure, and this is something that I want to say again as an invitation, of course, is that this is not a one-shot session, and I think that we should go on with that discussion so that it turns into real implementation, real changes, and I have plenty of notes, and I think that my colleagues do also have, and we would be ready to go on with a kind of think tank on these issues and challenges and opportunities. This is something that I caught from the various discussions, and so this should not probably be seen as only an issue, but something that should foster and help us go further. And so interdisciplinary is something that I also quote. The soft skill challenge is also something that we need to address, probably in a different way. So we need to invent new ways to have our students experience those soft skills, because you just can't say to a young person, okay, you're going to be a good decision-making person, because so it's not going up to the CEO level now, but because you have the tools, because you have the data made available thanks to big data, IA, and so on. So you're going to have to do it. That is not something that we can decide. That is something that we can train them to do. But then still, I feel that we need to invent how we're going to make it happen. So we are doing lots of innovation related to this, but we once again would be ready to further discuss this with you and go on with the discussion. So thank you, all of you, for standing. I'm sorry, so thank you for your attention, and thank you to the guest speakers.